Hi there. Welcome to the first episode of Meet the Ministers, where over the next couple of weeks and months we'll be speaking to a wide range of government ministers with an interesting range of portfolios, and dare I say in the next couple of months even a few people who might fancy themselves as government ministers. It's a great pleasure to welcome to the show this evening Queensland Attorney General and Deputy Premier Paul Lucas.
G'day, Shaun.
Paul, I'm probably going to ask this question a few times in the next couple of months. Did you choose politics or did politics choose you? You were getting involved from a pretty early age, weren't you?
I was always someone who was involved in organisations. My mum and dad, my dad in particular, was someone who was a volunteer, encouraged me to look at how things might be better, and I was very influenced by teachers at school.
Yeah, okay.
Got a real view about the profound influence for the positive of teachers, involved with the student council, went to university, got involved with the student union, and then the Labor Party, then ultimately a representative career after a career in law turned up, and I really do enjoy it. It has its challenges, but it's a tremendously interesting area to work in.
You went to school at Villanova here in Brisbane. Was there a time when you remember thinking, I can see myself being in politics while you were at school?
Villanova was a wonderful school. I don't regret a moment of being there. The priest that taught us there taught you about values. They taught you about not just worrying about yourself. You got a wonderful education, but you have values and a responsibility to people that are less fortunate than you, and whether that be through their overseas missionary work or indeed in community generally. And so one of the reasons I'm in politics is to change things, make things different, to see how we can improve things. And you can do that at a micro level, or you can do that at a macro level in politics. You can do either. But school was certainly a very, very sound part of establishing that yearning to change things in me.
So how do you live your life? When do you start today? I mean, you've had a range of portfolios, and looking at the list of responsibilities that you have now, how do you order your existence? You're getting up in the morning. I'd imagine you're out of bed pretty early in the morning and hitting the pillow pretty late at night. It must be a hell of a task to get your head around what you've got to face every day.
Well, look, one of the things in my job is, in fact, you don't run your life yourself. It's run by others, frankly. So often I'll see someone, I'll say, I'll see you next week, and I'll say, what are we doing? And we'll have a meeting in the diary because you just have so many things that you need to do in the day, whether that be, of course, as your role as a minister or as Deputy Premier, or indeed as local member, or frankly, as a parent or a partner. All of them dictate time in your diary, so it is very busy. Fortunately, my partner Alison is someone who has a very busy job in herself. So we're not often home too early. It's what happens after 7:30 p.m. is when we start to consider what we'll do at home. So that's one of the challenges. But on the other hand, you really get to see and experience life in so many areas in politics.
Since being involved way back in the 80s, how much has politics changed for you? Is it a different game now than it was back in the 80s?
Well, when I was first involved, if you like, as an amateur. I was involved as someone who believed, as a member of the Labor Party or indeed as a student union operative, that you could make a difference that way. When elected office came along, the opportunity when Tom Burns retired to stand for Parliament, that of course is a different way of doing things. But one of the things about politics is that increasingly there is a short news cycle. Increasingly, I think people say, well, what is happening immediately, how you are as a member of Parliament, what are you doing all the time? One of the great ironies, of course, is that Sir Robert Menzies went to England for 3 months to watch the cricket. John Howard, as Prime Minister, went to Lords for 1 day and got in trouble. Yeah. I think that sometimes we are very, very harsh on people in elected office in terms of our representatives. But that's fine. That's the Australian way. We question things, we probe things, and probably we're better off as a result of it. But sometimes it can be pretty tough and pointed.
The influence on the media, on how you need to portray yourself, on how you need to portray your information and your messages, of premium importance these days, and like you say, it's all about 30-second sound bites these days, isn't it?
Well, and also the media necessarily is a magnification. It's like the theatre. You become larger than life, and we've seen a number of instances where politicians have not, for whatever reason, understood that they are public figures, and when they've played up in restaurants and carried on. Well, if you the sort of person who bangs the table in a restaurant, don't go into politics. It's like being a professional footballer as well. They need to understand that as well. You've really got to understand that your outward manifestation to people is a signal of, how they perceive you.
We still do see the occasional politician, as you say, banging the table in restaurants, either literally or figuratively. Do the ministers sit back and think, oh God, I'm glad that wasn't me, or that's them, they've blown their career, sort of thing?
Well, basically we are humans, and so, what we just need to understand, and it's the same for a professional footballer, or the same for, the CEO of a big company, that the organisation is judged by you publicly, so you need to be very careful about those things. But look, no one makes you go into politics, so it's no good complaining about those sort of things. That's the reality. People expect a high standard when it comes to those sort of things. So sometimes that means if you're at the delicatessen and everyone gets served before you, so be it.
We're coming up to a break. One of the things we're going to talk about is your work as a junior rugby referee. Must give you another interesting slant on people judging your performance right on the spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, I really enjoy it. And it was one of the way. My three sons play rugby, and I was someone who played it in the C's at school, in the fourth 15. If they had a D's and a fifth 15 when I was at school, I would have played in those. That was how bad I was, but I was always enthusiastic. My three sons have loved their rugby, and they've benefited tremendously from the volunteer efforts of others. So I thought it was appropriate. I'm a busy person, but if I could qualify as a referee and then put something back into the game, then other people can do that as well. Though you do get your fair shares of criticisms, but I'm used to that as a politician as well.
Is it easier being a politician than it is being a rugby referee? I mean, it's not a lot of pressure in junior rugby as such, but once again, you're putting yourself out there to be judged immediately.
Well, when you're a politician, you're used to getting abused by professionals. Yeah. But look, as a rugby referee, 100% of the people don't like you. At least in politics, it's only about 50%. So it's, but it's, an important way. The reason I do kids is it's about teaching them. It's about the enjoyment of saying this is something, an endeavour that you can do to develop you. I'm a great believer in children participating in sport, in activities, in the arts, because ultimately we're not machines. Ultimately we are on this planet to make a difference as individuals, not as just someone who gets a paycheck and builds a house and then passes on and leaves that to someone else.
You can't take it with you. It's important to make a contribution while you have the chance.
Well, I like to think when you go into Parliament, you can see that there's a whole list of members of Parliament who've been there since 1859 before you, and they have Paul Lucas, time you're there, and when you leave, when you go out. And you're there as a continuum. Your stewardship, you get past it, you try to improve it, you hand it on. And that's the same in family and life as well.
Absolutely. You're watching Meet the Ministers. My guest on the program today is Paul Lucas, and we'll be back after the break.